So it was launched on that premise to tackle that. And I think it's grown and evolved very quickly to be quite meaningful about, well, actually, rowing has loads of amazing things about it. How do we take that to people who wouldn't have the opportunity otherwise?
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Last Row Counts. Today's guest is the Foundation Director of Love Rowing, Rebecca Gibson. Please welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I think what we're saying, second guest in the podcast studio. We haven't been here too long, so that's exciting for us. But again, we've been kind of talking to you around and about on the circuit. Even when we spoke a little bit about Love Rowing with Anne a while ago now. Did you say a couple of weeks ago, but it's not.
Last night schools.
Yeah. But yeah, I think for a while we've talked, and it'd be really, really interesting to see what's going on. I know you guys have got a few things coming up as well to talk about. We normally start with how people got into rowing, but I guess for you, we're going to start with how you got into Love Rowing.
Yeah, so I think it's no secret for those who've met me that I'm not a rower, although I'm 5'1.5" and quite loud, so apparently I'd have made a really good cox.
Yeah.
But no, I have always been working in sport. So tackling inequalities in sport is kind of my thing, if you like. And I am married to an ex-rower. I have a rowing oar in my kitchen. I even said that in my job interview. I'm not sure if that got me the job or not. But for me, it was more about the potential of rowing. I think rowing is a really untapped resource for marginalised communities. I think many people talk about why they love rowing and what it's done for them, including yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, I saw this as an opportunity to take that to people who could really benefit from it. So, yeah, I think just my overall career has kind of led me to this really nice point. I have been in a boat, though, so I have given it a go, which is amazing.
Yeah, you don't have to. Like you're saying, there were quite a few coxes that didn't row first.
Yeah.
And there were even some coaches, famously Jürgen Grobler, the GB men's coach, previous GB men's coach, was never a rower. So, but yeah, we've talked about it before. Rowers aren't really like half in, half out kind of people. It's a real community, and I don't think that's specific to rowing. I'm sure there's other sports that are like that, but yeah, it's a little tight knit gang, I guess.
Yeah. And community is used a lot from when I ask people, why do you love rowing? A lot of the young people say, I love the community that I'm in. And I think, that resonates definitely with me, and I can see why you want to extend that community.
Yeah, I think it was Steve from River Row Museum, wasn't it? He says he's moved around a lot, and it's like, if you want to make some new friends in a new place, go down the rowing club, and you'll find some people that are like you, a bit mad, happy to go out in the rain constantly and push themselves in that kind of way. What were some of the other sports you did before?
Yeah, so I worked in boxing, which was fun. I worked there for a long time, so I headed up the women's provision and set that up from nothing, because it literally was nothing, and they had to have a big vote to allow women to vote. So, it was really interesting just being able to work in a sport where women were not really wanted, and going from that to having Nicola Adams win gold at 2012 was pretty huge. So we had the whole big fight to get women's boxing in the Olympic Games in the first place, and then going from a budget of £40,000 to provide the development of the sport for women, pay for my own salary, and get the women to compete in an elite stage. To go from that to getting into the games to going to £1 million programme was a huge change. So I then did the work around developing the sport for both genders, and then just more widely. And I think it's really fascinating when you compare a sport like boxing with rowing, which you wouldn't necessarily think about comparing the two. Well, actually, they're both just sports. And if everybody has an informed choice and an opportunity, they can find the sport that works for them. And I think that's what we're seeing. Certainly I'm seeing with some of our amazing projects, that actually it's just about switching that light bulb on with somebody and finding the right opportunity that fits them. And it's the same thing, you find that community and where we kind of really feel like you're included and have those opportunities. So yeah, boxing. And then I took a complete weird curve. I went to work for pentathlon. I like quirky, clearly, but pentathlon has 5 sports rather than just one. But that was really probably not as much of a fit for me. I didn't see where the opportunities could be maximised and how it could really change somebody's life. So I think that was, for me, a short spell, and then I worked in consultancy. So actually I've worked with pretty much every sport, including working with the FA and Equestrian and Sport England and UK Sport and whole variety of different sporting organisations. So I'm a bit of a jack of all trades and master of none. And then I set up a charity as well in my spare time before coming to Love Rowing. So I've got a bit of a range of different experiences.
That's good. I remember I watched the documentary, Katie, the Irish boxer.
Katie Taylor,
yeah. And there was the point when she was younger, she's like, I'm going to go to the Olympics. And everyone was like, you can't. Like, your sport isn't in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And to see that kind of mentality was amazing.
I hate that when people say you can't do anything, because why not? Because sport should really be open for everyone.
Yeah, and there's a running joke with my friends that if you want to get something done, tell Tom he can't do it. Because
I like that.
Yeah, it'll like honestly though, I'll go around my friends' house and be like, I need to fix the toilet. There's probably no way we can get it done today. And even though I know they're winding me up, I'm like, I'm going to show you we can.
Do you go and then fix the toilet?
Oh, I would do anything.
Okay,
like anything that someone like I like the thing like, don't tell me what you can't do.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell people. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can either do things and people will be like, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Like, no, I already did it.
Yeah, for sure.
I also think the benefit for rowing is that, like you said, like it's always a choice.
Uh-huh.
No one's really, it's not like a school sport that you're forced to do.
Yeah.
So like as a coach, or if you're working with juniors and stuff, you're automatically already working with people who like have chosen to be there. Mm-hmm. Which I think must be more, you can compare that to being like a maths teacher and like no one wants to be there.
No.
That must be hard.
No.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk a little bit about what Love Rowing is and how it started.
Yeah, so Love Rowing, aka the British Rowing Charitable Foundation, we were formed and launched in 2019. I think it's no surprise to kind of go, well, actually, if we look around the sport, there is underrepresentation. It doesn't necessarily match with society, and that's not necessarily rowing's fault as a sport or everybody who participates' fault as such, but there is underrepresentation. So it was launched on that premise to tackle that, and I think it's grown and evolved very quickly to be quite meaningful about, well, actually, rowing has loads of amazing things about it. How do we take that to people who wouldn't have the opportunity otherwise, and then help them through rowing and use that transformative power of rowing to help people have a better life, in essence. So we are a charitable foundation in that we are trying to raise funds and then we fund projects. So we're not a delivery agent, but we try to make things happen by opening the doors from a funding perspective. But actually, there's probably some really interesting things that happen because we can share good practice. We can go, that worked, that was a bit creative, we tried that. What can we replicate that? And we've got quite a few examples of projects where we go, right, that worked there. How do we take that to different clubs and make that happen? So our primary audiences are disabled people. And we're not just talking about people who might compete at a Paralympic level, but the whole wide breadth of the disability community, which is a community I'm personally very passionate about, and young people from lower socioeconomic groups. So starting thinking about state schools, but then if you go to a layer underneath that, and then you think, well, actually, how can we get into state schools in the worst deprived communities or that have pupils with a high number of people who are on pupil premium? That's what we're trying to do. So if we can take rowing to those people, first of all, open the access, but then make sure that they can transition into being regular rowers and they just fit in, that would be amazing. So we are effectively a fundraising agency to work with rowing clubs and schools and community organisations to make a difference.
That's awesome. We talk a lot with like the top end of rowers, but ultimately the majority of people who row in this country are never trying to go to the Olympics. It's not something that happens. And like the what rowing really is in this country is people who row for fun, like on the weekend. And I'm not sure how fun you can call it sometimes, but even at a high level, even at a club level, it is a high level. But definitely, I think there's a lot of people that do it in that way and aren't necessarily like. I don't think it's something that you have to be like, oh, let's get you on a row machine because you might go to the Olympics one day.
Yeah. Precisely. And I think if you look at some of our projects, I'll give you a couple of examples if you like, because that's the exciting stuff. Raising money is just a vehicle to do the exciting stuff, right? So we piloted a project called Row the Rhythm in Peterborough with Peterborough City Rowing Club, and we kind of went, right, something special is happening here. And that was all formed on one person. So one person can have a massive power. So there was a fabulous rower there, visually impaired rower called Kate. You should get her in here because you'd love her. She's brilliant. And she rang the club up, and thankfully she had received a positive reception. The club said, okay, well, we don't actually know what we're doing, but come along and we'll work it out together. Tick number one, that openness, that willingness. And from that, she had such a life-changing experience. She's quoted as saying that rowing has brought her freedom and independence. And I think that's really, really powerful. So many disabled people feel that those elements are probably taken away from them by society. But for her to feel that when she's in the boat, she's got freedom and independence, and that then changes, that ripples into her life, is very powerful. So we funded a program there where we worked with another local charity called Campsite. So we had a feed through of people with visual impairment to come and row on a monthly basis. And we broke down the barriers. So we paid for transport. We paid for cake.
So rowers will know that
everybody needs cake, right? And that's, although we joke about that, it was about creating that social environment, that community feel. And from there, they've had 3 people who have transitioned into regular rowers. One of them's a Ukrainian refugee who's visually impaired as well. And it's, you can imagine how that's changing her life. And now we've just been able to successfully secure £40,000 so that we can keep that going as a project. And we are about to launch it at Fulham Reach and in Hereford. So we've gone from one person starting something to 3 clubs. And our aspiration is that actually everybody who's visually impaired in the country in a few years' time should go, I know what Row the Rhythm is, and I know I can row, rather than, oh, I'm not sure it's a sport for me. And, well, rowing is, it's like this or it's like that. Actually, no, rowing is synonymous with the visually impaired community. So that for me, is a really exciting project. And it's not about a Paralympic gold medal. It's just about community.
So does the name Row the Rhythm come from the fact that you have to develop a different sense of feeling in order to continue with your rowing? So, for example, you mentioned that as a visually impaired person. So is there like a specific focus on, for example, hearing?
Yeah, you're completely right. And as a non-rower myself, I've been told many times that actually not being able to see is almost maybe a benefit when you're learning, that quite often coaches will ask you to shut your eyes. So when I was saying I had a go in the boat myself, I went to a Row the Rhythm session and they're like, come on, get in. I was like, oh my Lord. And I had a go. And I can tell you now, I was a mess. My coordination was all over the place. I was crashing. I was having a great time though. Mm-hmm. But the people who were visually impaired were way more relaxed. They weren't overthinking it. They were literally feeling it. And that's where that brand's come from. So Rowing the Rhythm rather than anything else, which I think is quite an interesting USP.
So your first session, you said like crashing about and everything. It sounds like every rower's first session ever. Yeah. But having fun is the most important thing. Do
you know what? I was buzzing. I came off the water and I was buzzing. I really enjoyed it. I am not in the younger years of my life. I was somebody who used to be extremely physically active because I was a gymnast and I was a kickboxer. And then I've had kids and I don't do anything anymore because I don't have time. But for me to have that opportunity, and I switched off. So that whole mindfulness and the calmness, I get it. And I really think that it is about how can you take that to somebody, maybe without thinking about the Olympic or Paralympic medal, but just about open access is extremely powerful.
Yeah, it's we were actually at Henley Women's yesterday. I watched the PR3 final, which had a visually impaired girl in, and it was obviously they just have a launch behind that basically tells her how to steer, which I thought was really cool to see. I also think it's interesting that they described it as like a level of freedom they maybe didn't have. Because I think a lot of people that we've asked about, what do you love about rowing, what's kept you coming back, it's the freedom of doing it. And I think especially if you get into it as a kid, when you're playing football, there's the coach there and there's all these rules and you have to do this, this and this. Whereas like when you go on the road, it's like, right, get on the river and go. And you get to choose, if it's just a casual session, you get to choose your speed and your distance and what you do. So that's really interesting that it's like, that's something that can be like held by everyone who tries it.
Yeah. And I think that is a really interesting comparison. And then if you look at maybe the other audiences that we try to capture of young people who were pretty much having a tough time. Yeah. So I was fortunate. I went to Tyne Amateur Rowing Club where we funded some row with them. And they haven't really gone for the easy win. They've not just gone to schools willy-nilly and kind of gone, let's just go and do this. They've been very targeted about the young people who kind of they're reaching. So first of all, they go in with indoor rowing machines and they do that element.
Do we look after their eggs, don't we?
Not Tyne Amateur, Tyne United.
Oh, yeah, over the water.
Yeah.
You can see they can see each other.
Lovely boathouse.
Yeah.
The club is incredible.
Amazing. And I think they share the tank, is it called?
Yeah.
Indoor rowing tank.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely beautiful. So they take the rowing into the schools. They try to get as many young people as possible to give it a go. And then they work with the teachers to say, okay, well, how do we bring a cohort down to the club? So then they'll provide the transport, which is great, and then they get them on the water. And I was fortunate. I went when there were 3 different groups. The first group, it was their very first water session, and they were very scared. They were nervous, but they were being pushed out of their comfort zone in a supportive environment, which in itself helps them. I always hear about rowing and resilience. So you could see that with them. And they used that word. I didn't, I was like, oh, how was that? And, I feel really resilient. I'm like, wow, that's a very powerful word for you to be talking about. And so they really enjoyed that. And then there was a second cohort, and one of the young people there who he'd been previously, but the teachers saw the value for him personally, so they brought him back. And I didn't know still don't know his backstory, but the teachers were saying that this is changing him, so he coxed for the first time in that session. He came out and he was like, I'm so proud of you. And he was demonstrating leadership skills. And the teachers were shocked because he clearly is a very troubled young person and getting into a lot of trouble as a result. But this is opening a door for him. And then the third cohort was a small group of girls who had stuck at it, and it was making a big difference to them and their self-esteem and various different things. Now, peel that back again. What they're beginning to find is that program is reducing school suspension rates.
Nice.
So this is pretty powerful because, the kids want to go to school and they don't normally. So this is so troubled that they've got a bus going around all the street corners and to people's houses getting people to go to school. On a rowing day, they're wanting to be there and they know they have to behave themselves so that they can go rowing. Yeah. And what's beneficial to them is all the nature stuff. It's the teamwork. It's working with people they probably normally fight with at school, but they're having to overcome their personal differences. Now, I wouldn't have thought any of that before I came into this job. And that is very similar to the boxing situation, where boxing does that very, very well. But not every child wants to put a pair of gloves on. A lot of children want that more calm aspect, or you've got to find something for the right kids.
If you were to forget winter and all the rain, then what's not to love about just a bit of sun and fresh air and just being out on the water? I mean, I don't really know what it is about it that's so liberating, but it's hard to put into words. Yeah. But it certainly draws a lot of people into it.
Yeah. It was raining that day, just to let you know.
I guess that, the one thing is, at least when you're working hard, even if it's raining, you stay warm. I think for me, it's like the level of focus it required, I think. Yeah. And I think, we've said before, but in the world where everything's in your face and social media and we're quite often doing like more than one thing at a time, watching TV and looking at our phone or driving and listening to podcasts. Whereas like rowing, you can't do that. Like you can't be thinking about anything else. And I know it's not just rowing, but like specifically for us, you have to focus. And certainly when you start working hard as well, there's no time to worry about. So like life just kind of melts away. And I look back now and still miss some of the tough sessions we do, because for that half an hour, like nothing beyond the little number in front of you really matters. And like, that's a rare thing in life. So I think that's a good thing about it. And I think also, having spoken, like we said before, we spoke to Andy Triggs-Hodge about London Youth Rowing, and speaking to some other coaches who've been getting young athletes like into the sport. And the biggest thing they've seen is it's not necessarily anything that has to do with rowing. It's teaching someone that they could do something that they didn't think they could do.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, that's the lesson that often can get missed. And I think rowing's an easy way to do that, because you're like, right, I'm gonna hold a stick and go in a slightly bigger stick on the water. Like there's not really anyone who isn't nervous or stressed about that. So like, it kind of forces you from the first time to overcome it and be like, oh, like I didn't think I was going to be able to do that.
And then how amazing you feel afterwards. And there was a girl in that session in Tyne who, she was in her quad and she just went, I'm not doing it. They were on the water and she just went, I'm not doing it today. And it was like, oh, okay, one of those moments. But it was the other girls turned it round. And then by the end of the session, they had that beautiful kind of synchronization, and they were being a team. And whatever was going on in her life that day, she had to let it go, so she didn't let everybody down. And I do think that is a USP of the sport, and it does seem to have such power. But at the moment, if we're honest, not everybody has that access, and that's why we need to do what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree. Like, one of the unique things is you can't. Okay, it might not be ideal, but you play football with 11 people, and if one person doesn't show up, you can still play a game of football. But in rowing, if one person doesn't show up, technically you can, but it's very hard to go out in a boat with less than the amount of people that are supposed to be there. So I've found sort of teaching students as well that people realise, like, I can't pull a sickie here because 7 of my mates aren't gonna be able to go out. And like, you're right, that teaches you have to work together. There's no other way. And
where does that go in life? You've got to turn up for work. And I think from my own personal beliefs on what sport can bring, I think it can bring, aspiration. It can bring that opportunity. I think it brings skills and employability. And if we were able to do that through rowing, and, it gives people jobs. Again, my husband a job when he started in his career. It can do all those different things, but you just have to open the access at the beginning. And if we compare it with football, everybody can have a go at football if they want to. Yeah. There's a huge amount of funding and has a huge machine behind it. So everybody could go and do that, but not everybody wants that to be their only option. And I think that's really interesting if we can ensure that everybody has an option. A lot of people, I went into another project and there were quite a lot of people who were probably year 6, year 7, and they were bigger than their classmates. They weren't very coordinated. They clearly weren't very confident. Then putting them in a rowing situation, they were like, I can do this. And you're like, okay, yeah, because we tell people they're not sporty really young because they can't kick a football.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean they're not sporty, and we need to change that mindset.
Yeah. It's kind of a joke with rowers, isn't it? That we're all crap at all the other sports. That's why we end up finding this one.
Until you find rowing, you crap at other sports, and when you finish rowing, you suddenly become really good at the other sports, I found.
Cool.
It can definitely help, yeah. Because, it's funny, I think a lot of people want to find their thing. No one always wants to follow in what everyone else has done. And I think rowing kind of had that, maybe like a sort of image, or people would see it as a sport, like, oh, you're from a rowing family, or you do it because your dad did it, because your granddad did it. But actually, we know so many people that we spoke to who found it because it was like their thing and it was different. But also, it's interesting, we spoke to Rosie Popper, who won Olympic gold for Australia in Tokyo in the women's 4. And her parents are rowers, and she said by the time she was like 12, she was nearly 6 foot, like really kind of stick out as a girl. And part of getting into rowing and basketball as well was to make her feel like she's not. Yeah. Because in those sports, all of a sudden, the things that make you stick out in life actually are a good thing. Yeah.
And actually for girls of that age, that's really important because, body consciousness issues and a whole host of different things. We need to grab them and tell them they're amazing, not tell them they're not good.
Yeah. And I like seeing on social media now, like the push with sport in general, like whatever sport it is, CrossFit, these kind of things, like women, like big, strong, like, and it's not this kind of, I'm sure people still have the negatives, but like it's seen as like, is it healthy? Are you fit? Are you strong? Like this is the things that matter, not are you super skinny, which, you know, when I was a kid was like what it was all about.
In terms of providing access and broadening it to different ranges of people across the country, do you source the projects yourself, or is there a way that people bring them out to you and then you decide where to sort of install them and apply them?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's two ways that we work. So we have an open grant round, normally in the autumn, and people can apply to us as long as it meets the particular audiences that we are obviously trying to attract. So they can just apply for us. And then, unfortunately, we don't have as much money to support all the projects, which is why we need to do what we do. So we have that. And then the other opportunity is we might be driven by a community specifically. So, for example, in the open round, we had the international community of Sunderland applied to us. So this was a refugee community going, we want to row, but they didn't have anything rowing provision around them to make all of that happen. So we said, well, we're not going to just give you the money for that to happen and just give you some rowing machines and think that that's going to happen. But how can we facilitate a partnership? So we've connected them with a donor, and we've connected them with a rowing club, and they're in July about to start a Learn to Row program.
Cool.
So that's beautiful, where we can actually facilitate things to happen. Or, as I said, we might go, that project work, how can we do more of that? And then look where that might fit in different areas. So there's different ways that we work.
That makes sense, definitely. So what are you eyeing up next in terms of the future for Love Rowing? Would you be looking at also possibly giving access to rowing to kids who have tried other sports, or is it just purely for those who have never really done sport or weren't sporty per se?
Yeah, well, you probably, for young people, they do have access. Obviously, they have the PE curriculum, however good or bad that might be in their school. So they often are doing other forms of physical activity, but they haven't got the access to their right opportunity just yet. So we don't necessarily go out and go, right, you've tried this, come and try this now. It's more driven by the community that they're in, their demographic, and then seeing if this is an opportunity for them. But thinking about what's next for Love Rowing, we have kind of said, right, there are some opportunities emerging. One of them is deprivation and coastal rowing, because that there could be something there. We're only in initial talks about what we might do with that. But I think with beach sprints coming in, I think, and all of those different elements, there are opportunities. And we've just funded a project with East Anglia Youth Rowing in Lowestoft, which has a really high, above average rate of child poverty, which you wouldn't necessarily think near the seaside. But that project is underway now that we funded, and it'll be interesting to see how we do with that. We want to have more Row the Rhythm, so we need to raise more funds for that as a programme. We're also developing a project in Chester, hopefully, because we've seen there's some potential there. So we're looking at where we can develop things, but we can't make any of that happen unless we bring in some money, which is why you guys have seen me everywhere wearing a big row hat recently and trying to sell the big row.
So let's get onto that then. Yeah, what is the big row?
So the big row is really exciting. It's happening the 5th to the 8th of September. We're trying to get as many people as possible, ideally 1,000 people, to work with us to row the distance of Paris to LA. So as the Paralympics comes to a close in September, we want to move that little virtual boat to where the next Paralympics will be held, which is 15,241 kilometres if you row through the Panama Canal. So yeah, that's what we're doing. So people can sign up either individually, or they can sign up with their school or their club. They could do it as a workplace. However they want to do it, they can do it on land. They can do it on the water, but they have to contribute a distance to that larger distance. So hopefully people feel like part of something. And then that will help us through their entry fee. And if they want to fundraise, it will help us to raise ideally £60,000 for our projects.
So that's for the projects that you're kind of talking about already, or is that some other stuff as well still to come?
That will be the stuff to come. So that will help us to look at how Love Rowing develops going forward to support more projects in our next open round.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you said about the beach print stuff, because like you said, there are some seaside towns that kind of struggle with poverty, obviously being very seasonal and things like that. So it's, and they've got the beach, right? So like kind of the venue is there already. You don't have to build a stadium.
No.
I think beach sprint stuff in general is kind of exciting. I still haven't been yet to see an event live, but I'll get on the water. And
Definitely, yeah.
But that's it. That's an exciting thing as well to come out of it. And I think in general, like an event that is a little bit more inclusive in terms of that everyone uses the same boat. You don't have to have your own boat. You don't have to have your own equipment. All the teams kind of help each other. And we spoke to James Walker from Wales, like it doesn't matter which team you came from. If someone needs their boat holding for them, you're just going to run over and have that. So I think like that's really interesting to see.
The other funny thing about beach sprints is that no one really knows the rules yet, or how the Olympic category is going to run, or like what's the correct technique and etc. There's a lot to be explored in the next few years. So if we can bring that out to more people, I guess we're going to have a much better pool of athletes to choose from, and then hopefully send the best possible team out to LA.
Yeah, completely. And hopefully you guys are going to do the big row as well.
I think we have to now, yeah.
I think you have to, yeah.
So dust the all-in-one off.
So how do we join? What do we need to do?
Yeah, brilliant. So you visit our website, which is www.loverowing.org, and there's a page dedicated to the big row. So the schools that are out there, schools can either select to pay a deposit of £50 and then they just have to commit to fundraising, or they pay £500 and that's a flat fee, and then they don't have to do any more than that. But that's great for many of the independent schools to join, because they can, if they've got a big rowing program, it's straight after the summer holidays. They can get back into training straight away with a really fun initiative. It helps their young people kind of understand how they can help others and other projects and realise there's a wider world out of there. And then we've got just obviously packages where people can just register as an individual, pay their amount and then help us. And we've got our first person who registered was Judith Packer, who's going to the Olympics as a referee, umpire. Cool. So she's an amazing advocate for Love Rowing and for the big row. So it's great that she was our first sign up. So literally anybody can take part.
And how does it work? If I do more meters on the rowing machine, how much do I then contribute? Is it £1 per every meter, or?
No, we did talk about this at length about the best way, but we wanted it to be inclusive to take part. So for me, I might do 5K on the erg, which will be a huge, ginormous challenge for me. But that has to be comparable to you, who might do 100K over a couple of days.
Not me.
But that's, our challenges are all individualized. So it's just an entry fee, and you make that challenge challenging and appropriate for you to take part. And we are talking to a couple of, corporate businesses who are wanting to take part with a project, and then they could raise money directly with a project. And for the rowing clubs out there who've taken part, some of them already know this already because they've done it before, they can get some money back for their own inclusive projects for their clubs if they raise a certain amount. So there's a win-win for everybody, hopefully.
That's good. It's definitely at the right time. First week in September, it's like, right, time to get the training done. Talking about terms and saying that one of the big changes they made is making sure that everyone's back on the 1st of September and not sort of rolling through the door in October a month later.
All those barbecues needs to be worked off, right?
Yeah. I also think, the comparable thing is another thing, and maybe not exclusive to rowing, but what I love about rowing is that at rowing events, like for example, Henley Women's at the weekend, like everyone comes with their own personal challenges. You know, it's like not everyone can win, but a lot of people know that, a lot of people are like, well, let's get through one round, or can we make it to the final day? Or, something as small as can we put down our best performance? And I think there's so many different ways that you can kind of measure your success, or like what you're doing. And I think that's good that you guys are kind of doing the same thing. Like, right, you decide what is the challenge for you. Yeah. I think we're going to have to try and put some, if we're going to do it, we should put some serious numbers down.
Yeah, definitely.
But on the water, I'd much prefer to on the water.
Yeah. And that's good. I think when we've done it previously, most people have just done it on an erg, and that made sense because our first big row was as we came out of COVID. Mm-hmm. So people wanting to get back in, but still had to socially distance and what having clubs weren't fully open. Yeah. So this way, I want it to be a real celebration of rowing. And I think there's something special about how we can link people up. So we're talking to people in LA and in Paris so that we can have some umpires doing a Zoom ergo session at the start of it, and then we got a club in LA who might host a Zoom ergo, so we can get some quirky stuff done through the actual event itself.
That would be cool, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. So in terms of it being a challenge, usually when there's a challenge, there's like a winning criteria. So whoever gets the most meters
classic.
I know, I'm loving this. We've gone from, it's all inclusive, everybody's personal challenge to competition straight away.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
How do I win?
How do I win? We are going to have a couple of leaderboards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously there's going to be the contribution in terms of kilometres, but we also have a fundraising leaderboard because obviously we want to raise as much funds for our projects. Yeah. So we're going to have different things, and the leaderboards, the way that they work, will take into account. So it won't be yourself on your own taking part against a whole school who damn it. So they might beat you, so it'll be individual versus an individual on the leaderboard, and we might have some cheeky prizes to give the people who do the best on the leaderboards.
Rowers will do anything for merch and sort of stash, as we find. Yeah, definitely. That's a big selling point.
Yeah, I think I can't just give wristbands for everything, but young people like wristbands, don't they? Oh wow! But no, it'll be a bit better than that.
Yeah, wristbands are back in big time.
Big style.
They were huge when I was a kid, and then they disappeared and all the way back in. I wanted to ask, what's the split kind of between indoor and outdoor rowing? Because indoor rowing's got huge now. It's what we do as well, and I see so many with CrossFit and Hydrox and all that kind of stuff. Is that like a big part of it as well now? It's not just on the water rowing.
Yeah, I think for our projects, it is a real mix. So for many of our clubs or projects that are taking rowing into schools, the easiest way is for them to load up a van and go with ergs and get as many people taking part in a really fun way. Ideally, though, for our projects, we want to get people on the water because of all of those benefits. So I think indoor rowing has a place on its own. But for us as a charity, the on the water bit is probably where it's going to take people from that transformative power of rowing bit to make a difference. So it is a mixture because that has to be what works for the projects, and we're not necessarily dictating what might work.
Yeah, I remember when I first asked you about the project at Nat Schools.
Oh, gosh.
And I heard it's a big row from Paris to LA, and I was like, that's dangerous, no? Surely. How long is that going to take? What kind of provisions are people going to have to take with them?
I know. It's funny because it's hard. I get really excited about the event and I'm trying to explain it to people, and then I see people go, for real? And some young people are like, you mean you're going to give me a holiday to Los Angeles? I'm like, no, that isn't going to happen. It's all virtual. And then also for me, there's always a lesson, right? So the young people thinking, well, we could do that in a day. Like it's 15,241 kilometers, not 15K. So it's a geography lesson as well.
I think if we counted up all the miles that all the Brooks athletes did put on their ergs, I think they could probably do that in a day.
Yeah.
To be honest, power the university. I always remember when we were coaching. The rowing machine is fun to a certain level, but obviously not everyone enjoys it, and it's not as fun as the other bit. But whenever we found someone who was like, "Oh, I love rowing on this ergo," like, wait till we get out there. Like, if you like this bit, you're going to be hooked as soon as we get you on the water.
Yeah. But it's good though, isn't it? Because it's the winter, as you say. But no, we've seen, we had a project working with a brain injury charity, and actually we found that the erg in the winter didn't work. So they stopped coming. What we found with them as a particular group of people, it was purely the on the water that helped with their rehabilitation. And that's very special. It's very interesting to learn that and understand that and reflect that of, okay, what is special for this particular group of people? Whereas we funded ergs to go into a state school in East London, who they have no open space whatsoever. So to put ergs in there and then for them to compete on them and do all of that, that does open a door for them because they can't do it any other way in a school day.
I think it must be exciting as well, like for it to be all quite new and for you guys having to be kind of working out. I know that the old adaptive head coach for British rowing, Tom Dyson, who also went to my school, who's a few years ahead of me, but I know him. And he was saying rowing on its own can be quite similar, but when everyone's got a slightly different way that they need to do it, or you've got all these new challenges and all these new things to fix. And for the kind of problem solving brain, it's quite like exciting to be like, okay, well, no, but they can't row in this way and we need to do this differently.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely, just me as a person, that attracted me to the role because there's an opportunity and there's a newness and creative problem solving part to that. But I also think, I definitely believe that people who coach more diverse communities become better coaches, because you have to work out how to communicate better, how to adapt and include, and then that helps you as a coach further down the line. So I think there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the reason why people love the sport so much is because it gives you so many reasons to be proud of yourself for the accomplishments, because there's, like we said, there are sometimes people who will say, oh, wow, I can do this. But what is this? Okay, it's not falling into the water. Mm-hmm. It's having to carry the boat outside. It's having to get in. It's having to row in time. It's having to work and coordinate with other people, etc. And it can be a really, really big challenge. So I guess mentally, the benefits of rowing can also not be understated. Mm-hmm. So have you also started exploring those sorts of paths in the sport?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that for me, we can it's a bit of a known that there's a physical activity benefit. I'm more interested in probably the mental well-being benefit and kind of that individual development side. And you can see that what the challenge is quantifying that and then selling that to a wider audience. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the challenges for rowing specifically is rowing speaks to rowing. Rowing doesn't speak to Joe Public. Mm-hmm. And what we need to do is change perceptions. Because whether those perceptions are right or wrong, most people have a perception, and we need to tell them how amazing rowing is and that they should all love rowing as well.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I don't think that message is getting out there. So whether the Olympics, Paralympics opens that door, it would be amazing if it does. And we suddenly see more people go, oh, okay, actually, I can challenge my perception and I want to go and give that a go. But they're not going to be sold by the shiny medals. They'll be sold if they get the messages of what we've been talking about today.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
I guess it's difficult to kind of see, but like you must sort of have some vision for like where Love Rowing can go to or its reach. Like what are you kind of guys thinking that like if we can get people involved and get some of that funding, like how far further you could get down the road?
Yeah. We're working through that at the moment. I think there's a big learning stage for us as a charity, because in charity land, we're very, very new. Yeah. We're like in preschool.
Yeah.
So we need to kind of go, let's accept that and learn from where we are. But the fact that we're starting to emerge to think something like Row the Rhythm could be huge. And if we could get big funding for that to happen and unlock Row the Rhythms to go everywhere, which British Rowing are really keen on as well, then that's where we start to change the dial, and it becomes not just one project somewhere helping one person. It ends up being a national campaign with lots of programs, and we start to change perceptions. So I think there's a huge opportunity to be able to do that, but we shouldn't forget that we need to do what we're doing now, which is that learning. It's a little bit like being a rower, right? You've got to learn to row first.
Yeah.
And you've got to reflect, and then you have to learn to compete before you can learn to win. So I think we're in that stage at the moment of really learning from what's working, what's not working, where we can make the biggest difference, where we can take some funding and make a difference. So that's where we are at the moment.
Yeah. Awesome.
I was going to ask, is the challenge of promoting rowing to non-rowers possibly the language barrier that exists with like rowing having basically its own separate terminology for a lot of what's going on like during the sport day to day?
I think every sport is rubbish at marketing itself, generally.
Except football.
No, yeah, because football has that huge media presence and everyone, but I still don't understand the offside, if I'm really honest. So
I want to explain.
No. But let's just leave that there. But yeah, so I think every sport has its own language and terminology, and every sport tries to recruit people thinking that they can immediately jump in and understand. Mm-hmm. We don't do enough to kind of soften the entry route and take the sport. So my background, as I said, is around tackling inequalities in sport. And for me, it's about inclusion, not necessarily about equality. It's about how we go, who's not here, or why are they not here? How can we understand them better, and how can we take the sport? And that's positive action, where you kind of go out to somebody and go, come in and join in. If your first experience is going to Henley, that's probably going to blow your mind. It blew mine even just at the weekend at Henley Women's, because I'm like, wow, this is really amazing.
It was.
It is amazing. But at the same time, if you don't understand what's going on, you can feel intimidated. Yeah. So we need to get people and give them a big cuddle as they're walking in. And actually, I think going into a rowing club for somebody who's a non-rower might seem intimidating, but that's not the reality. Mm-hmm. So how do we tell them that actually it's really a great experience, like you were saying before to me, that that's where you can make friends, and if you're new to an area, we need to go and tell people that, not maybe a phrase of learn to row. It should be more come and meet friends, and you can do this no matter how old you are. I did not realize how many people join at my age. You know, I definitely thought it was a university sport before I joined rowing. That was my perception, but that's not the reality. So how do we challenge those perceptions through marketing? Yeah,
it's you're right. It's funny, I guess, because we fall in love with it over a number of years, and then we're so in love with it, we forget that like you don't fall in love in one session. Like, you know, it does take a bit more time than that. But also, like, one of the favorite bits for me as a coach was getting someone to that point where you're not having to ask them to come back. They're like, right, when's the next session? And you're like, oh, yes, I've done it. You know, I've like got them into it, and like trying to do is not trying to push someone too hard, but just to get them to that point where they want to be there. But I think the social aspect is really big as well. And like a lot of rowing clubs do that really, really well. And if you go to Henley Regatta, you'll see it's wild. You know, there'll be like packs of Brooks rowers wandering around, and everyone's got their blazers and their colours, and it's like the tribe, right? You know, it's part of their gang, and like we all love it so much. We should learn to be a bit better at showing other people how to love the sport as well. But I guess what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I guess the big draw for people to come to rowing clubs is to almost like join your community, because like you said, rowing can be so tribal. Maybe that's what will get people a bit more curious rather than learn to row, because it's like this big scary thing. You can fall in the water. There's so many movements. There's an entire new language to learn in there. But like, actually, here's where you make friends. Here's where you overcome challenges together. That's such a beautiful message.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and you know, we've talked about it before on the podcast, but you know, I know I deal with life better because I rowed.
Yeah.
Like, I know I deal with stressful situations better. I know I could compare them to stressful times in rowing, having overcome things that I said that I never, you know, oh my God, there's no way I'm ever gonna do that. And then you go and do it. And it's like so many lessons for life. It's a lot of what we talked about as well. And again, to mention Rosie Popper, she was quite interesting, where she, again, was talking to someone else about having done rowing at a very high level and not done a lot of other stuff, and feeling like it was a waste. Not a waste, but like, need to make up now for lost time. I've lost time doing other things. And it's like, no, you spent a lot of time growing, like building so many amazing life skills that now obviously she's taken on, and she's doing another course in Oxford. There are all these things that on the face of it might not seem like you could take them with them, but with you into the real world, as it were, like not the rowing world. But I think you can, and like the more people we speak to, the more people we see that as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I've got 2 daughters, and I'm already thinking, okay, well, when are they going to row? And that's it's a work. Do you know what I mean? So it's really understanding. Now I'm in it, and I love the impact that it has and that sense of community. But you're right, we need to tell everybody and that message, and help clubs to open their doors to those experiences, because club volunteers do a lot. Yeah, they do an awful lot. They're giving a lot of their free time to running a club. What they often don't realise is how do they then go and tell that message? Because even when somebody gets there, they're going to have a good time, but it's hard to reach out. So somehow together we need to work out how we spread that love.
Yeah. When we spoke with the Olympic commentator Robert Trahan Jones, he said that TV is still king. If if television wants like a city move 2 inches to the left, that will happen. So I guess there is not, outside of the boat race and typically the Olympics, sometimes World Championships, there isn't like that much televising going on from rowing events. And for example, we've seen the live stream from Henley Women's, the beautiful drone shots, like so many different camera angles, this team full of fantastic commentators. Possibly maybe if people could just like stumble upon it, then they would get a bit more interested. Because for example, that's how I found some other sports like snooker, etc. Like it's still, you can still see it on TV, but with rowing, it's not exactly prevalent, or it hasn't been in the past.
I think the TV coverage needs to link with the wider aspect of the sport. So if they can kind of show the community element, or show more of the disability classifications, for example, and tell the life stories of somebody, that would be amazing. I think those stories will help change people's perceptions, that somebody might have come into the sport later in life and then still does well. There's lots of stories to tell. We need the media to tell those stories for us, I think.
So here comes my question. Having seen the release of Boys in the Boat earlier this year,
yes,
has your charity seen a difference or like an impact or an increase in requests for anything like this, or it's not been targeted enough for Britain, I guess?
It was. I literally joined the week that was out. I joined the organisation at the beginning of January, and that was one of my first work events was to go to the cinema. Nice. It was fabulous, and it's a very powerful movie. But no, I wouldn't say from my side of things that I've seen necessarily an increase. But then I'm not. Maybe the clubs have. I'm not entirely sure. So it'd be probably a question to ask clubs whether they saw people coming through. But even down to lessons in chemistry, I read that book before I joined rowing, and I was really inspired by that story. I don't know if you've read it.
I haven't yet.
Yeah. You should read it. It's a great book.
I was in the film, but I didn't read the book.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. But no, so there are different ways that we can engage. But you're right. There's almost like that product placement aspect of marketing that if we took rowing and it was more visible in unusual situations or more life situations rather than sporting situations, people might realise that connection.
Yeah, we've been talking in rowing again, talking about why a lot of people say it's not a spectator sport, because obviously on the river you can't see all of it. But then you compare it to sports like cycling, for example. You know, Tour de France happens hundreds of kilometers, but they flock to go and see it on the side of the road. And I think it's like you said, it's the backstory stuff, it's the data, it's other stuff that I have access to. So in terms of like social media, I mean, like the good example is the boat race. You know, they'll have a little bit of that backstory of what the students have done, what they've gone through, those kind of things. And that's what makes racing so much more exciting when you have more of that knowledge. It's funny you say snooker, because I think snooker's a one again when, like, if you've never seen that game get played or you've never played it, you're like, what the, I can't, I'm fall asleep in 2 minutes. But if you have an understanding of the game and if you've tried it, then you get to, like, oh my God, the skill level here is amazing, and what they're capable of, and compare it to like what you've done. So yeah, a lot of that is like, if we can get more people in the boat, like, it's a funny thing with rowing. If you watch it from the outside, it can look quite calm and easy and, oh, they must be having a good time. But actually when you're in it, you're working, your lungs, everything's going. So,
chaos.
Yeah. So, then I think there's room for it. I think obviously social media is like kind of more accessible now, and there's a lot more people like us. We can just kind of make our own show.
I think you guys, it would be great if you did that guide too.
Yeah.
Because if you walk in off the street to Henley Women's, it looks amazing, but you haven't got a clue what's going on. And then I had a million questions. I didn't have anybody to ask them to.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, they get you, but then where did they go? Where have they just gone? And how do they go from being really calm to steely determination and competitiveness? What's happening in all of that? And actually, yeah, you're capturing, you're watching maybe part of it, because you're not, unless you're like some of them running along the towpath and screaming, you're not seeing the full thing. So I think we do need to do more to kind of just explain to people what's happening at a rowing regatta and make it really welcoming, that people won't know what is happening, what it's called. So Judith Packer, bless her, she took me on a launch. That was very special. I loved it. Yeah. And she was, I was able to observe and understand way more about what was going on with a great spectator view. And that was only £7 for people to pay to do that. I thought that was really reasonable. I thought, wow, this could transform your spectator experience into the sport. So I think there's a whole host of different things that could be done, but we need to remember not everybody knows. Yeah. Even if you're a parent of a rower, you're not necessarily going to know what's going on, really.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think we could do a little bit of that maybe next week at Henley Regatta, and just do a bit of the break it down, and just some of the simple stuff that we've all got used to, but
yeah.
it isn't common knowledge. And certainly we've sort of been reaching out a little bit into the commentary world, and we've done commentary at Regatta already. We'll do a little bit at Henley. And certainly we've talked about really wanting to make sure that we talk about things in a way that everyone can understand, and really remember that people will be listening who don't have all the same knowledge. Yeah. But it's easier said than done, because you kind of slip into your own language.
Yeah. There's still so many people that don't really understand the Henley Royal. They think, oh, it's so expensive to go. Like, no, the first 1,800 meters of the course, you can just watch from anywhere.
Yeah, somebody was telling me that. That's amazing. You wouldn't know that, though, would you?
No, absolutely. It's only the enclosures that you need to have tickets for. But the regatta enclosure is open to everyone. Mm-hmm. There is no dress code. Stewards enclosure is a little bit more tricky to get into. But that's only the last 300 meters of the race. The bulk of the rowing happens, obviously, in the third, like off the start. And then if you wanted to catch up on the finish, you've got some fantastic shots on the live stream. So it doesn't have to cost a fortune to also come out and watch it. And I feel like that's probably one of the suppositions that people have made in their minds about it. So it will be good to clear that sort of thing up.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
Can do that. Awesome. I think that's great. Unless there's anything else that you want to talk about, bring?
No, just sign up to the big row.
Okay.
Sign up to the big row. I think a lot of people don't know who Love Rowing, don't know who we are, which is fine because we're a young charity. But I think if more people can understand about Love Rowing and more people can have those opportunities, then that would be great. And the big row is a great way to connect with what we're trying to do.
Yeah, we'll make sure we kind of shout about it as well from our social medias. We'll talk about it a little bit on here. We can try and recruit everyone we get on. Sign on the line here.
Sign up now.
If there's anything we can do to kind of help do that, hopefully, we can do a bit of work together in the future.
Definitely.
That would be amazing.
Looking forward to putting some miles down, spreading the word out, and like if Love Rowing wants to use the platform to sort of like spread the word out about it a bit more, like we're always happy to accommodate that.
We will take you up on that offer. Thanks.
Awesome.
Good. I think that concludes everything for today's episode. So on that note, easy there.
Cue the music.